Hey, this is Lee with Let's Make It Happen. I recently bought a 3D printer and I've been printing a lot with ASA and ABS filament, and they kind of kick off a lot of VOCs in the air, and I've been looking for ways to kind of get it out of the air so I'm not breathing that. So I found this print online, 3D print online, called a Bento Box. This little guy here. And in this video I'm going to show you how I power it using like kind of my little switches here. You can kind of hear the fans kick on right now. And what a Bento Box does, or what's in it, is it has this little filter, HEPA filter in the top. It pulls air down through it, and then from the HEPA filter it goes into this carbon little magazine. Inside of it's like carbon pellets, and it's supposed to kind of help catch some of the bad particulates or VOCs in the air along with the HEPA filter, and then kind of keep a lot of that stuff in the chamber and not put it out in the atmosphere so you breathe it. So here, and the instructions online tell you how to build the Bento Box and how to assemble it, but they don't really get too much into how to power it. So what I've done is I've created a plug that runs through the back of the machine into a 12-volt power supply. And that 12-volt power supply is then hooked into my switch panel here. And I use these switches to turn the printer on, to control my dryers, and then now to control the Bento Box. So the back of the printer, you can kind of see I've installed this little female jack to power the Bento Box, and have a 12-volt power supply that just plugs right in. It's nice and clean. And on the front, again, I can just turn it off and on when I need it. So when I'm printing PLA, I don't need it on, no problem. When I'm printing ASA or ABS filament, I turn it on, and that way it makes it so much easier to just switch everything off and on. So let's make it happen. I'll show you how to make it. Now that you've got your Bento Box printed and assembled, we'll kind of go through the process of how I'm going to power my Bento Box within the 3D printer. Before we get into that, let's look at the assembly of the Bento Box. So the top is kind of held together with some magnets. If you follow the instructions from Maker World, it will tell you how to embed these magnets and whatnot. It has a HEPA filter in the top. Then it has this carbon magazine. I don't want to open that because I do have carbon in it. And then they tell you to install these two 40mm by 20mm in height fans. These are 12-volt fans. They are 2-pin fans, meaning that they've in the connection, it just has 2 wires and a connection. So if you could, it's almost like a little connection for like a computer board, but I couldn't find anything online that could connect to that. So I'm going to do my own thing with it. So just to get back to the fans, I soldered the reds and the black lines together and used heat shrink to join them to another wire that kind of goes through the box, through the little fan hole. There's an extra one there because you're only using two bolts per fan to attach it to the Bento Box. And then I ran it through the bottom, then out the side where the Bento Box already has a port for a wire. They've got one on both sides. What I'm going to do is I've got this 12-volt 3-amp power supply. That's more than enough for these little fans. I think these fans are like 1.32 watts each, or 11 amps, 0.11 amps. So that's really small. I've run this off of this charger for a few hours, and it runs fine. I couldn't find a smaller one for my needs. I'm going to show you why I need this type of connection later on, how it's going to be plugged into my setup. So in order to power the Bento box, I'm going to add this connection onto the back of the printer. You can kind of see that. So this is a, I think it's a 5mm connection, but I'll put a link to these in the description of the video. So essentially what's going to happen is I'm going to plug this to the back of the machine. There's going to be some lead wires like this that go through the back of the printer and hook up to these two wires. And I'll have a switch to turn it off and on. But instead of making like permanent connections in the 3D printer, I'm going to use some other connections. Again, when you order stuff off of Amazon, they send you a boatload of it. Years ago, there was a store called Radio Shack where you could like go and buy like one wire if you needed it, not 50. There we go. So I wanted a nice small connection inside the case so that I could, you know, plug this in and power the Bento box. And if I needed to take it out of the machine for any reason, like, you know, to fix the fans or if they wear out, whatever, I can just disconnect the plug, leave the connection that I'm going to put into the back of the machine permanently there, and it'll be easy. So let's get into soldering some wires together. Okay, so I got my two wires. I've already stripped them with some wire cutters already. I determine which end I want to use. I think it would be easier if I'm trying to get this thing out of the box to use the little piece I have to press on. I guess this would be the male end. To be able to reach in the box, press it, and disconnect it like that versus going the other way around. So that's how I'm going to solder this together. I don't think that I need all of this wire. So I'm going to cut some of it off. Okay. I'm going to be using some heat shrink to join these together. And I don't know, let's see if that's big enough. That's perfect. So what I'm going to do on this end, because we want that away, we're going to, these are actually cut long enough, so these are pretty decent. So what you do is you take the heat shrink, we're going to run this up the wire first, like so. Actually, you know what? I'm actually going to probably put a hole on here once I get done. So I need to get one big enough. Yeah, that's good right there. So give me a piece that's about yay long. Put this on this side. So I got enough to work with. See? And then on the other side, I can pull these apart just a little bit more. Unless we shove them on here. Yeah, that'll work. The only thing is you got to make sure that they don't slide all the way up under the other heat shrink, because trying to get those out is a pain in the you know what if they get slid up there. So you just got to be careful. They would go together. And the fact that they're a little snug is good. Yeah, that's great. So essentially I have 3 heat shrink. I'm going to use 2 heat shrink, one for the black, one for the red, kind of put them together once I soldered the wires together, and then one big one over top of all of it to kind of keep all the wires together. So let me bend this out. I've got my soldering gun ready to go. Iron, not gun. I've got some flux. Flux is used to allow the solder to, or help it stick to the wires better. My solder is pretty old, so I usually just take it and just stick the wire right on it. Heat it just for a second. When I say old, it's probably 10 years old. Time to get some new, but it still works. A bit like that, just to get some on there. Yeah, good to go. Now, the wires straightened out. And I'm just going to solder them straight together versus trying to twist them together. We don't need to do that in this application. So as long as they're in line with each other and they have a good joint. Make sure this is straight. We'll get some solder onto the soldering iron. You don't want to breathe this stuff either. There we go. So now, put these two wires together, get some solder on there. Perfect. Now we'll get the black ones hooked together. I do have a set of what they call alligator clips that can make this a lot easier, but I don't feel like getting it out. There we go. All right, so now I got to go get a heat gun or a lighter to basically I'm going to pull these heat shrink pieces over the wires. There's one. And there's two. So let me go get something to heat this up with, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back with my my heat gun. So I'm going to turn this on, and what you want to do is you want to heat the little ones up first. Get those shrinked in place, and try to keep the heat away from this big one until we're ready to use that one. So let me gear this thing up, put it on full heat. Yeah, heat. And that's it for that one. So if you can kind of see how these how the heat shrink just kind of wrap around those wires. Now we're gonna pull the wires together and pull the big heat shrink over. Kind of tighten this up a little bit. And the main reason I'm doing this is kind of keep these wires together so they're not just flailing around in the box. So here we go. If you don't have a heat gun, a lighter will work, but you have to be careful with the lighter. You can actually burn this stuff and kind of ruin it. Because right now, even though we did add some heat to it, it's still very flexible and feels very rubbery. So now we're going to do the same thing to this end. So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to take this out. Got these two guys. Get this out of the way. Might need probably a larger piece of heat shrink for this piece. So let's look at what we got. Got that one. And then for the other connectors, got some red in here I need to use too. All right. So again, let's go ahead and trim these wires. Oh. So again, put the big one on first. This one on this side. This one on this side. Let me look at these real quick. Just going to trim these up just a little. Like that. I'm just trimming them just so I can get a better connection. Tighter, actually. All right, now, this may be a little tricky, so. Yep, there we go. All right. Get some solder. My soldering iron. Ooh. Get these close together. Just like that. I'm just trying to see if when I go to join these, yeah, how easy it's going to be to keep them in line. Like that right there. And because I put flux on these, it just sucks the solder right onto the two wires. Makes it a whole lot easier. All right, we got those put together. So now we'll do the same process as we did before. Run the heat shrink up to the wires. Let's get the heat gun going. All right, you got that done. Now, here's one thing you need to check. So, this piece on the end, I have to drill a hole into the back of the unit for this to go through. You need to make sure that this end is going to be able to go through that hole, right? So, don't make the mistake of putting a big plug on the end of this guy, because you have to end up cutting it off and then redoing it. But right now, because this has the little springy piece of plastic on there, this will go through the hole that I need to drill for this guy. So I'm not in any danger there. So let me finish up and then we'll go over to the 3D printer and show you how I'm going to put this together. Okay, so the idea is to have this plugged into the wall, plug this into the back of the printer, like so, and then have this plugged into the Bento box. Just like that. So this is the connection. If I plug this into the wall, let me do that. We can test it. All right, so now you can see the fans are working. And the air is coming out of the bottom. So the way this is supposed to work is it's going to pull the VOCs from if you're printing ASA or ABS or any other filament that's got VOCs kind of that you want to try to capture. It's supposed to pull the VOCs down into here, through the HEPA filter and through the carbon box and then back out the bottom. So we'll see if it works. And it doesn't have a big draw, but it's enough. You can kind of feel a little bit of air coming through there. But again, the idea for me is to be able to, if I need to service this, to just unplug it, just like that. Take it out, do what I got to do, put it back in, plug it back in, and off we go. All right, now we're going to move over to the 3D printer. Okay, this is my 3D printer. It's a Bambulab X1 Carbon. What we want to do, or I want to do, is to be able to, once I install the Bento box, it'll go in the side over here. There's a little L on the bottom that matches the L on the bottom of the Bento box. And it'll fit right in there, just like that. I have a 5mm screw that goes in there as well, which we'll use. But as you can see, I've got this plug right here that I want to be able to use. And I want to be able to put it in there and be able to unplug and plug it back in. So let's get into that. I have installed a basically a DJ power strip on the bottom that kind of controls the printer. It's going to control the Bento box, and on the bottom I've got some filament dryers down here. So when I need to use one, I just turn the switches on. Just like that. Makes things a lot easier. I made this cart. It's fully movable, so we can just spin it around. Let's unplug the printer. We've got to unplug the AMS. I need this little tool that I've made to get this wire out, or this tube out. There we go. Let's take that off. So basically, we've got to disconnect everything on the back, including this little guy. And this little tool you'll find on Maker World or online. It's basically a tool that you can print to help you take these little leads out. Just like that. Helps you press that little piece on the back of the plug so you don't tear anything up. This one you push in. That's out. Okay. You don't have to take this one off because this whole unit comes off and it's just plastic. Just like that. Make sure you keep up with your screws. Put that down here at the bottom. All right, what I do is I take the ones off the sides, basically all the screws in the back off. The reason why I do that is because when we already take this back off, there's a little piece of metal under these two pieces here that I have to move the back side to side to kind of get it off. But I make sure I keep track of the screws that go in the sides versus the ones that go in the back. The ones on the sides kind of sit proud, meaning they kind of come past the top. The ones in the back sit flush. They look like they're the same screw, but I don't know. I just make sure I keep them separate. So these are side screws, these right here. I don't think I need to take out the pulley screws, but we'll see. As you take this off, you'll see that this back piece, I mean, it's just flimsy sheet metal. It's not even that thick. Whoa. Come on here. Put these down here in the bottom. That one in the middle right here sits proud. I need to make sure that it's the same kind of screw, and it isn't. These are like machine screws. You can see that or not on camera. And this one looks more like a screw for plastic. It's got like a more of a rougher, almost like a wood screw thread, whereas these are machine screw threads. So I got to keep that one off to the side. Just FYI. Those. And your back may come off easy. See, this side came off pretty easy right here, but this one over here, it'll come off. But let me get this plug off here for a minute. Here should come right out. There it goes. I had to like shift this over a little bit so I can get it out from behind this little pulley wheel. So here's the back of the machine. So let's take a look at the inside of this box real quick. Just look at what's going on. It looks like that there's just this plastic wall right here between the back and the inside chamber. So what we're going to do is drill a hole through that and run our wires through it, and then we're going to use a rubber grommet in that piece of plastic to run our cable through. So let me turn that around, get ready for that, and show you how we're going to do it. Now, before you do this, think long and hard, because this is going to void the warranty on your printer. So I'm going to drill a hole, if you can kind of see, right about here, about 3/4 of an inch over and about a 1/2 inch in. Yeah, we got kind of an angle. just like that. All right. Now, what I want to do is go on the back side of this thing and push the plug through that hole. Now, this grommet, you guys can kind of see this little rubber grommet. It's going to fit in that hole, supposedly. You can't really see it, but we're going to find out in a moment if it is. The hole is right in there. I almost forgot. We need to drill a hole for where this plug is going to go into first, into the back of this, because we have to go from the back through so we can screw this on and then go from there. So let me figure out where I want to put this and show you where we're going to mark it. I believe just going to pop it in right center above that guy. Get some tools for that. Okay, so we're going to put it right above this power supply, the hole. I've got this little punch. Help me put a punch in here. The dent. There you go. Just put me a little pin prick there. That's walking on me. I don't want it to walk. That's what that little pinprick is supposed to do, is to stop it from walking. Sorry about that. The battery decided to take a lunch break. All right, so I did get the hole drilled. You can see that. I need to make it a little bigger. So I'm using my step bit to do that. Checking behind me. So we need to go down to 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do. I'll flip this around, because on the back side you'll have this little burr right here that'll cut you. So just flip it around, take your drill. Just do hit it, it'll take it right off. All right, that looks like it's the right size. So let's run our cable through. And let's see if it's gonna fit. Yay, it does. So now we got that going through. We got to put our washer on, and that's why you want to use one of these small connections so you can fit these things over. So if I had to one day, I could take this thing apart. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit here. Nope. As far as it can go. Back you up. There we go. So if I had to, I could take this apart and put a grommet back here and fill in the hole. So I'm just hand tightening that. This thing comes with like a little rubber gasket to cap it off when you're not using it. It's pretty cool. Try to make that sideways, vertical, or horizontal actually, just like that. See? All right, we got that done. So now I'm going to run the cable in there. So give me a minute and I'll run that cable and then we'll go back to the front. Okay, now I've got the little wire coming through. So I'm going to pull that through. Get that in there. All right. Yay. So this grommet, I've got to cut it Let me go ahead and do that. Alright, so basically you just cut the little grommet just so you can open it and put it around the wire. Kind of see what that looks like. Alright, let's spin her around. Turn that off. And as you can see, there's my plug, there's my wire, plenty of space in there for it to basically live without getting involved with anybody or getting wrapped around anything. Time to put this thing back together. Whoop. Again, we're going to pull this out a little bit. There it goes. This side goes that way. This side goes that way. Alright, so I'm going to put the back on, and we'll come back and then we'll show you the rest of the hookup. Okay, this is what the Bento box looks like installed. I've got the wire connected, a little plug. Got a 5mm screw or bolt tying the box down to the floor of the printer. I've got my power strip in the front. So let's turn that on. You can hear the fans running. Yep. Put this in there. Got that going. Turn the printer on. And that's a wrap. That's how I'm powering my Bento box. If you guys found this video helpful, please like and smash that subscribe button. Until next time, keep making it happen.